we celebrate our Independence Day.
What's going on, guys? Welcome to the video. We got another quick video here on Brexit Day, and this is relating to our time in the European Union ever since 1973 and the astonishing amounts of money we've spent on the privilege of being subservient to an undemocratic parliament like the one we had in Brussels, that today we will thankfully kick to the curb and begin the road to being an independent nation, as technically we all know it doesn't start today due to the transition period. But by the end of December, we should be out completely, because if we're not, Boris will obviously be in big trouble. But we have an Express article today that says Brexit outrage, staggering amount Britain has spent staying in the EU exposed. Now, I don't know if it's exposed because we all knew it was going to be expensive, but they should have the figures for us to actually see for ourselves. Britain joined the European club almost half a century ago, and its yearly contributions were far from cheap, as since 1973, total UK payments to the EU budget have amounted to hundreds of billions of pounds, which I'm sure you will agree is a disgusting amount of money, and actually goes to show how bad Labour's last election manifesto was, in the sense that it was going to cost us trillions. We haven't even sent that to the EU in 50 years, and we've been sending them a shitload of money. So, once again, dodged a bullet with the last election, and of course the Labour Party. After 3 years of political chaos and almost half a century of subservience, the will of 17.4 million people will finally be respected on January 31st. Britain is about to leave the EU, and even if Big Ben might not be bonging to mark the historic moment, Brexiteers around the country and indeed the world are going to be celebrating taking back control of our sovereignty and laws. Britain will also be free itself of the hefty financial contribution it makes to the EU budget every year, meaning it will be able to spend more money on internal affairs, and that will be true after the transition period. We still are paying money to them until December 2020, which I'm sure is one of the reasons why Boris Johnson refuses to extend it, along with the fact that he would look like a complete arsehole and be hated by every single Brexiteer, I'm sure. According to figures from the House of Commons Library, since Conservative Prime Minister Edward Heath took Britain into the European Economic Community, or the EEC, the precursor to the EU, in 1973, total UK payments to the EU budget amounted to 215 billion when adjusted for inflation. The UK is a net contributor to the EU budget, which means that it contributes more than it receives back from it. Germany, with a net contribution of 12 billion, was the largest contributor in 2017, followed by the UK with 7.43. So there you see it, both Germany and the UK are getting absolutely hosed by the European Union, as the bulk of the EU budget is spent on the Common Agricultural Policy, which supports farmers' incomes. Countries with a large agricultural sector generally get more money back than they put in. And if it was not for Margaret Thatcher, Britain's yearly donations to the bloc would have been even higher. The Iron Lady famously negotiated a reduction of 2/3 in the UK's net contribution in 1984, on the grounds that agricultural subsidiaries favoured small farmers and Britain has very few. She banged on the table and demanded our own money back during a summit with European leaders in France. However, after Tony Blair agreed to a cut, the rebate fell from 5.4 billion in 2009 to only 3.3 billion in 2013. Figures published by the Financial Times showed. In addition, total payments from the UK rose from 14 billion to 17.2 billion. Once again, thanks to a Labour government and the warmongering fuckpig known as Tony Blair. At the time, then UKIP leader Nigel Farage questioned whether Britain could afford to remain in the European club. He told Mail Online, "Thank you, Mr. Blair, for sacrificing a large chunk of the British rebate in return for absolutely nothing. Much of the money that has come back to Britain has been used to make rich landowners richer through the Common Agricultural Policy. The question is no longer can we afford to leave, it is can we afford to stay." Robert Oxley of the campaign group Business for Britain also echoed Mr. Farage's Eurosceptic sentiments, as many people have, and look where we are now, thanks in a large part to Nigel Farage himself. He said, "At the time, we've been pouring more and more money into the EU every year, only to see far too much of it squandered. Tony Blair threw away much of our rebate in return for empty promises of reform that never materialised, much like Tony Blair's weapons of mass destruction, I suppose. It's about time Brussels curbed its spending rather than making extra demands on the UK because our economy is growing. During the transition period until 2020, the UK will pay into the EU budget almost as if it were a member state, like I've already said. The UK will also receive funding from EU programmes such as structural funding as if it were a member state, but once again doesn't come close to equaling how much we've put in. The UK will contribute towards the EU's outstanding commitments until the 31st of December 2020. Recipients in the UK will also receive funding for outstanding commitments made to them. The UK will share the financing of some EU liabilities at the end of 2020 and any materialising contingent liabilities, and will receive back a share of some assets. The pension of EU staff are likely to be the most significant liabilities for the UK, while the most significant item being returned to the UK is the capital it paid into the European Investment Bank. Well, I'm not happy about that. I don't see why we're paying pensions for EU staff when we're no longer in there. That's their problem, they confront it. And if we refuse to pay it, that way it makes France or someone else pay it, and then maybe they'll push to leave the EU and get rid of the democratic shithole a little bit faster than it's already going to. But, once again, Tony Blair's cost us more money, as that one points out, and this article goes to show the staggering amount of money that we have actually paid to the EU, and reinforces why we have left. It goes to show all those Ramoning fuckpigs who have been trying to keep us in want to keep wasting taxpayers' money on giving it to an undemocratic shithole over in Brussels. It's absolutely incredible. But on that note, guys, I am going to end the video there. Like I said, it was just a short one to bring you this on Brexit Day. Make sure you enjoy yourselves tonight, I certainly will. As some of you will know, I have started doing live streams and uploading gaming content on my second channel. If you are interested in joining me for a chat in real time during one of my live streams, have an interest in gaming related content on YouTube, or simply want to follow me over there because you are a legend, the link to subscribe will be down in the video description and as a pinned comment. I hope to see you all there. Now, as always, I want to thank our YouTube, PayPal, Patreon and Subscribestar members for supporting the channel, along with everyone who watches my videos. Remember to let me know what you guys think down in the comments section below. Leave a like, subscribe with a notification bell and share this video as it helps the channel a lot. And I'll see you all in the next one.
There is a pattern consistent throughout history of oppressed people turning on the oppressors. Slaves against their owners, the peasantry against the feudal barons, colonies, Mr. Verhofstadt, against their empires, and that is why Britain is leaving. And it doesn't matter which language you use, we are going and we are glad to be going. We're off.
Ramon! Ramon!